Hi guys, welcome back. We're in my nook again. Today we're going to be doing some baking. So for those that haven't been here before, my name is Amanda. My family and I live in a semi-rural location located in southeast Queensland. And as a family we focus on self-sufficiency and preserving and growing our own food. Today I'm going to be working on some gluten-free flours and gluten-free bread recipe. So come along and join the journey. And let's make us some yummy fresh bread. Okay, so gluten-free baking can be a bit of a challenge. It's a matter of different flours will produce different effects, and also depending on what your additives are. So I'm going to teach you or share with you my recipe for just a plain flour, and then we will then turn that into a bread flour, and we're going to be making a chia seed and flaxseed bread today. Now we'll pop all the instructions also in the description as well, so you will be able to keep that later on. But what we need is 2 cups of rice flour, 1 cup of tapioca flour, 1 cup of potato starch, and 2 teaspoons of xanthan gum. That's my straight mix for just a standard plain baker's flour. Or an all-purpose flour is another word, or plain flour is another word that it's known by. So in my bowl I have my 2 cups of rice flour. I need to add now 1 cup of tapioca flour and 1 cup of potato starch. Now to my bowl I've also added half a teaspoon of salt and my 2 teaspoons of my xanthan gum. The xanthan gum acts like gluten would in a normal bread, so it gives us the elasticity in our dough. So it is something that we do need to add. It is vegan and vegetarian as well, so it's suitable as well. That is my plain mix for my base recipe for my doughs. That just all needs to get mixed well together before we can now turn this into a bread dough. Okay, all mixed well together. Now for the bread recipe, we only need a total of 400 grams after I've added my seeds. So I'm going to add my seeds to this mix. This is now going to be my mix for my future loaves of bread. So to this mix I'm going to add half a cup of flax seeds or linseeds. You can use golden flax seeds, or I like to use the toasted variety. And then I'm also going to add half a cup of chia seeds as well to the mix. And I'm also going to add 1 tablespoon of baking flour just to help it to be nice and aerated as well. So by adding the 1 tablespoon of baker's powder as well as my seeds, you can also use sunflower kernels, it's another option as well. So now I have myself a multigrain mix ready to make our bread. I need 400 grams of this, so I'll just measure that out and we'll start making a loaf of bread. So I have 400 grams of flour. The remainder of my mix has now been stored into a sealed jar, so that just needs to be labelled. And I also have some of just the plain self-raising flour, which I'm going to use in the bread pan to coat the bread pan so the bread's easy to remove from it. Now to this I simply need to add 250 ml of water and 2 eggs that have been beaten together in a bowl. So warm water, not cold water, and 2 eggs whisked really well so that they're nice and aerated. Also helps with the baking. This bread doesn't have a proof time. It's mix and pop it into the bread tins and bake it straight away. So it's a really quick recipe. So just mixing it well together. Now you can do this with an electric beater, in which case you would beat it for 1 minute to incorporate all of the flour and the egg and the water mixed together on a slow speed, and then increase the speed to a medium speed for a further 2 minutes. I do it all by hand. It's not worth getting a piece of equipment all dirty for that. And then having to wash it up, this makes it really simple, all in one bowl. So after mixing it for a couple of minutes, it's all come together. It is a wet dough, so you do need it to be a wet dough. Different flours will absorb with different levels of water. You can add an additional up to about a 1 cup before it becomes too dense. So water is sort of the enemy of gluten, or moisture is the enemy of the gluten-free bread. However, with the xanthan gum and things like that added to it, we do need to have some water added to our mixes. So it is a wet dough, which is why there's no rising time. We're going to transfer this directly into 2 20 centimetre baking trays. Now my bread tins are 30 years old that I've had, and my mother had them before me and her father had them before him. So they're very well seasoned. So don't all freak out about the colour of my tins. That's what happens when you bake on with proper baking gear for decades. So these just need to be floured. You treat your cans or tins the way you would do. I'm just going to flour mine and put my bread mix straight into them. So I've coated my bread pan or bread tin. This is, like I said, a 20 centimetre one. I've coated it in flour. I'm just going to transfer our bread mix into it. My oven is preheating at 220 degrees Celsius, and we're going to bake this covered with a second tin, or you can use alfoil, but if you do use alfoil, you need to ensure that your bread as it rises doesn't come into contact with it. Once we get our dough in, we're then going to spray the top of that dough with some water, so misting some water over the surface of the dough. That stops it splitting at the top while it's baking at that high temperature. After 30 minutes, I'm going to remove the tin and I'm going to cook it for another 20 minutes. When you check the internal temperature of your bread, you're looking for about 90 degrees Celsius. If you find that it's not that temperature, then you're going to need to continue to bake it off. Every oven is different. For me, I know my oven times. We then need to cool the bread on a rack until it is cold. We can't slice into it while it's freshly baked out of the oven, unfortunately, even though it's very tempting. So generally I make the bread the day before. Okay, so the dough's in. Just going to mist it, like I said, with some water just to coat the top. Second tin on top of the first, and then into our hot oven. Okay, while that's cooking, let's talk about the products. Honest to goodness is where I source a lot of my different types of flours that are difficult to find where we're located. Honest to goodness, you can purchase from online in Australia. You can also purchase all of the flour ingredients that I've mentioned via Amazon as well, so I can get them delivered the next day if I need to. I can also pick up some at Costco when I'm doing a Costco run. But comparatively, the website of Honest to Goodness is about the same as Amazon. Bread baking, let's have a look at a loaf that I made yesterday that's cooled and ready to slice open. And so there's a lovely loaf of bread that's been cooled, ready for slicing and then popping away, ready to use later on. I only eat one slice a day with my soup, so it lasts us a long time. I'll slice into this so you can see how it is inside, and then you can go ahead and make yourself a nice loaf of gluten-free grain bread. And there you go, ready to go into the toaster. So it's lovely and aerated and nice and soft. Now, if you want a really soft crust, you'll just need to paint this with some water after you bring it out of the oven, to brush it with some water once you bring it out of the oven if you don't like a really crispy loaf. If you do like a really crispy loaf, then I'd suggest putting it back in the oven on the wire rack for a further 5 minutes to crisp it up. I like mine soft. It gets toasted anyway. And that's my gluten-free grain bread. Now you've got my recipe for the standard flour, as well as how I go about making my gluten-free bread. Enjoy. Now I'm going to toast a piece of this up now and have that this morning. And also, like I said, I'll put all the instructions and ingredients listed into the description as well. Now, while I think about it, this is a product that I've used in the past, which I've had some good success with as well. And they've got quite a few different ingredients or pre-prepared boxes of different mixes. Yes You Can is the brand. Again, you can get this on Amazon. It's a little bit more expensive, so it's much more economical to make your own bread flour mixes. And again, this one plus mine, you can do egg-free if you want to use an egg substitute. You can use arrowroot with oil and water as a substitute as well, or another egg-free product. And again, Yes You Can has got an egg substitute as well, so you can make this bread totally vegan. I actually add the egg for the protein content, so for me, it's perfect. Mine's toasting away at the moment. I'll come back in a second. Typical Aussie Vegemite on toast for breakfast. And lovely and crunchy. Alright, thanks for watching, everybody. I will get back to my day. I'm currently dehydrating mushrooms. I dehydrated the shallots yesterday, or chives, or green onions yesterday, and heading out to the garden. All right, thanks very much for joining me. Bye now.